have a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
Oh,
Liam Neeson dropped one of the most iconic lines in the movie Taken.
I want to go watch the movie right now just because you said that.
It's just such a cool movie. This dude pops in and is a one-man army. He single-handedly takes down like this entire mafia family and saves his daughter and saves the day. He stops human trafficking just with guns and skills.
Yep, he's got it.
Yeah, it's crazy. He is truly a one-man army, a lone wolf that was so successful. But you know what's interesting about him? In that movie, his life sucked.
It did.
Go and watch that movie and look at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is.
He's sitting in this tiny little house and his daughter is like 17 or 18 years old. And he's trying to buy her a little kitty karaoke machine because she's still his little girl. And she doesn't care about him. She doesn't give a rip about him. He's divorced. His wife is married to this rich dude now that just throws his money at all the problems.
Yeah.
And he's just isolated.
Yeah.
And pretty much all he does, if you look at his little schedule before that happens, he goes and drinks beers with his friends one night a week, talks about the good old days, and then just sits alone.
That's so true. He does have a terrible life.
His life is garbage.
We look at him as such a hero, Liam Neeson. No, I don't want that life. That was a horrible life.
Yeah, and it's the same thing from what I remember in Die Hard. That dude's marriage was in shambles.
Yeah,
he was a garbage human, dude.
Yeah.
And like all we look at is like that. What would it be like? A day or a week time period where they really come in clutch because they can kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
And guess what? After that, life's still not that great.
Yeah, it's true.
All of this to say, even movies recognize that being the lone wolf, being the one-man army, it may look cool for an hour and a half, but it's kind of garbage before and after.
It is.
It's a little sad sandwich.
Yeah.
You've got patheticness, and you've got this really cool little small like deli ham slice piece of awesome sauce.
Yeah.
And then you go back to sadness.
It's true.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
If even movies recognize it, surely in our lives, we can recognize that maybe, just maybe, being a lone wolf might not be the best idea.
It's not.
That's what we're talking about today on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to help you move from survival mode to thriving, to living a life you can be proud of.
Yep.
My name's Reese.
I'm David.
He's my dad. And today we are talking about the famous archetype, the lone wolf.
The lone wolf.
The lone wolf.
Everybody loves the lone wolf. Well, I mean, gosh, when I was a kid growing up, I remember watching old reruns of The Lone Ranger. And, man, I wanted to be the Lone Ranger so bad.
I think everybody has their own version of that.
They do.
Right? Like there was Rambo.
Yep.
Well, before Rambo, there were all the cowboy movies. And there was just like Clint Eastwood sitting there with his 6 shooters just handling business.
Yep.
Now, everybody dies at the end.
Yeah.
So at least they were kind of honest with how that path ends up.
Yeah, what happens?
But then Rambo hits, and then we talked about a second ago Taken.
Yep.
And so there's always a new iteration of the one man just epic killer.
Yeah.
You know, the one man show who can just handle everything. The issue is, even though it looks cool for movies, it's not real.
No, it's not real at all. And I think for us, we love heroes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think having heroes is good. It's challenging. But sometimes I think we make our heroes to be something they're not, almost where they're perfection. Well, man, they had such a great life.
Yeah, you set them as the ideal.
Yeah. And if
like,
you've ever gone back and read biographies of people who you would think of as heroes, they didn't always have great lives. There wasn't a guarantee of success. There wasn't a guarantee of this, either. I just heard something the other day of, I think Van Gogh, the painter, he was never recognized as a great painter in his whole life.
No, and then he killed himself.
Then he killed himself.
Yeah.
You know, and now people are like, oh, Van Gogh, Van Gogh. It was a pretty sad life. I think, you know, to do it over again, he'd probably be like, I'd rather have a good life.
Yeah, I'm just going to be a farmer.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, if they sell my artwork after I'm dead, I'm not making any money.
Yeah, it's
you
not
know?
helping me. It's helping someone else. And so, but I think as men, we have this lone wolf thing because we want to have heroes. And that's good. But we need to understand that the lone wolf is actually, it's just wrong. And to have that image in your mind, I think sets you up for failure.
Yeah, it's deceptive. It can be deceptive because even in those movies, those lone wolves had training.
Yeah.
Well, like let's look at superhero movies, like Batman. Everyone's like, Batman knows every kind of kung fu. Batman, like he's got a plan for everything. He was trained. I mean, go back and watch Batman Begins if you want. If you're a movie guy, he gets trained.
Yeah.
Somebody teaches him how to fight. Right. So even these superheroes get some kind of training or a power bestowed on them in some way.
Yeah.
And usually, even if we go to the superheroes who are pretty much lone wolves, their lives are not that fun anyway either.
Yeah.
Like Superman. You know, that man just staying in a relationship with Lois Lane is like impossible.
It's true.
Like he can't stick with her for more than 10 seconds before somebody tries to murder her.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So the lone wolf persona is, I guess we want to warn you against it because it can be deceptive.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of guys, that's what they live for. Their life is lived thinking that this is the best thing. Because I think in a certain way, the lone wolf character appeals to us as men. It's something we're drawn to. I mean, I think history has proven that. There's tons of stories, books written, movies made about that lone wolf character. And I think we see ourselves in that. The danger is there's a pride part that comes out of that, to where I can be that lone wolf. I don't need anybody. I'm going to be just like my hero of the past. Well, your view of the hero of the past maybe came from a movie. Movies aren't real.
Yeah.
Even the movies based on a true story, a lot of times they change things around. It's not reality. But a lot of times we're living with that idealized version of what a man should be. And it almost makes us feel like, well, I guess I'm less. Or we're going to try hard and kind of destroy everything around us, trying to fit some role that just isn't going to work.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with power. A lot of these lone wolf characters seem very powerful.
Yeah.
Like the Liam Neeson or Rambo or fill in the blank character, he can defend himself. He can take out anybody he wants to. He can get whatever he wants done.
Yeah.
Just with a little bit of violence. You know, he can handle it all himself. And what we like about that is we want to have a sense of power. Now, you're right. At one level, there's the pride element.
Yeah.
We want to be able to be fully self-sufficient. But on another level, maybe the reason that we like that character so much is a lot of us feel like our life is happening to us.
Yeah.
It's that the defensive mode we talked about a couple weeks ago. It's that sense of like, see, that guy's truly free.
Yeah.
That guy gets what he wants done. And I think that's, even though it's a fake thing, that's the element of it that really appeals to us.
Yeah, and I think there's a respect element in there where we respect powerful people. And I think a lot of guys go for that lone wolf lifestyle because they're like, I want respect. People will respect me. And what they're doing is they're kind of setting themselves up on a false narrative of what that means. You know, self-respect begins not from the outside, but from within. You know, when you're a guy who's doing the right thing by yourself, there's a self-respect that happens. When you overcome things, there's a respect level that comes, and then that is something you live out to others. But when we're always looking for that outside affirmation, what we're actually doing is giving up control of our lives to that outside. You think of, like, we're in the political season, you think of politicians, you know, selling their soul to get money, to get this, to get that. And a lot of times it's a respect thing.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's use another example. The alpha male.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that last week. The alpha male persona. Think back to high school, to the popular quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet you money he had things that he liked that he felt like he couldn't do because it wouldn't fit with the image of a powerful guy who has it all together.
Yeah.
Maybe he liked something that was classified as nerdy, or maybe he enjoyed something that didn't fit the stereotype he was trying to fulfill.
Yeah.
So he ended up limiting himself for the sake of other people's opinions. To bring it back to a cringy Disney movie, High School Musical.
That's true.
The star basketball guy can't sing.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
playing off that motif of like,
yeah.
if you're going to be the cool guy, you can't do that other
You can't
stuff.
do that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that lone wolf element. Like imagine if you watched the movie Taken and that guy was a big chef. He just had a passion for cooking and he just loved being able to work on his Marsala wine sauce. Like you'd be like, psh, that dude's not a true lone wolf. He's not an epic man because he likes this hobby that's not as manly.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people live their life that way.
They do. They do. And I think a lot of guys get to that place where they realize sometimes, okay, everything I've been living for it doesn't really work.
Dude. Yes.
You know, we talk about the midlife crisis. What's the movie, the cartoon, Will Ferrell, where he's the bad guy and the good guy quits and then the bad guy becomes the good guy?
Megamind.
Megamind, yeah, the classic movie Megamind. The hero, what was the hero's name? The Brad Pitt voice.
Metro Man.
Yeah, Metro Man.
I can't believe I remembered that. I'm so proud of myself.
That's actually really good.
I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
go ahead.
Metro Man was empty.
Yeah.
He was invincible. He was all this. He was all that. And he wanted to what? Go be a musician.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to go chase his dream. And I think a lot of men live under that thing to where they're going after one thing, then they get it or they get close to it and they realize this is kind of empty. That's the lone wolf mentality because you think, well, if I get this prize, if I get this woman, if I get this much money, if my company does this, then I'll arrive. The problem is you're still by yourself. You haven't built a life. You've been so focused on this other. And what we want to say is doing stuff is great. Working hard is great. We're men. It's what we do. But if you're not careful, you'll build an empire where you're the only person in that empire. And there's no one else around. And that's not a good place to be. We go back to what we talked about at the beginning. Liam Neeson. We all love the movie. It's a great movie. We all want to be a guy who could do that. But his life sucked.
Yeah.
His life was horrible. I'd rather have a good life. And if I have a good life, then my daughter wouldn't go off to Europe without me knowing about it and get kidnapped. You know, we got to look at the reality of the lone wolf character is a character. Don't try to be that in your life.
Yeah. And a lot of guys want to do that, like you said earlier, pride, and then to feel powerful.
Yeah,
However, the lone wolf persona hurts us.
it does. It
It
really
hurts
does.
us. Let's talk about some ways. What are some ways that we think that the lone wolf persona can hurt people?
Well, I think one of the biggest is guys don't do well by themselves. If you look throughout history, when you look at guys who are serial killers, guys who did horrific things, a lot of times people are like, well, they were a loner.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't really have any friends. They didn't hang around other people. We think of movies. You think of movies where the guy who's the bad character, when he's a kid, he's doing experiments on, you know, insects by himself, ripping their wings off or something like that.
Something
And
psychotic.
you're like, oh, that guy's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I think there's part of that as men, we get weird by ourselves. We need people sometimes to just say, you're getting kind of weird. Stop doing that. Well, look at today. We have so many men who've gotten so addicted to porn that even their view of sexuality has changed. So their view of what is a man, what is a woman, gets weirded out. And guys go down this path that's not a good path to be on. It's not healthy. It's not by design. but it's because they're sitting by themselves, consuming hours and hours of this stuff, and it's changing the way they think. And I think we have to be careful when we're by ourselves too much. We get strange. We don't think clearly. We kind of get into our own heads, and it's just not good for us.
Yeah, every guy has blind spots. Mm-hmm. Everyone. I've got blind spots. You do. Everyone that's listening, you've got blind spots. I think you would admit that. Mm-hmm. When you stay by yourself, those blind spots get more extreme.
Yeah.
They expand and they get extreme. And so, if you're the kind of person that, let's say a blind spot for you is health. Let's say a blind spot for you is your eating. You've got a lot of other stuff together well, but your eating's not good. If you just stay by yourself, that's not going to improve.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse. And so we get weird by ourselves. I love the example you said earlier of Metro Man going and being a musician.
Yeah.
He went off by himself.
He did.
And stayed by himself.
Yeah.
And he got odd. Yeah. So that's a reality. I think another one that I definitely struggle with as a person who is both driven and creative. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we're by ourselves, we try and do too much.
Yeah.
We will make this master plan. Well, like let's say you're planning your day by yourself. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to repair this. I'm going to paint that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to write this. I'm going to go read 4 chapters of this. Yeah. I'm going to do a 2-hour workout.
Yeah.
And then you go to your repair and it takes 6 hours instead of 30 minutes like you thought it would. Well, what you're doing is you're trying to accomplish too much in one setting. Mm-hmm. When we're by ourselves, we are really bad at measuring how much we can do effectively. Yeah,
that's good because I think sometimes we don't realize we're doing that. Mm. Like in this last year, I have met someone, talked with someone. She's become a fiance, and I'm getting married to her in a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole story to that. I won't give you all the details, but it's interesting because one of the things I've learned just while talking with her, I get a lot done. But it would be on days where I didn't think I got anything done.
Yeah. I'm the same
because
way.
Because in my mind, I had this, I wanted to do all this, this, and this. Yep. But I only did this, 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 and this. And she'd be like, that's a lot.
Yeah. It's like the ambition and drive can work against you.
It can.
Yeah.
And so I would be like, it was a lot. Mm-hmm. I got a lot done today. And it literally changed the way I view my day, which helped me because I was so like, I only got this done, and then I did that, but that took longer. And so in my mind, it was a failure day.
It was a loss.
Yeah.
Some days you just take an L.
Didn't get everything done on my list. And she was like, gosh, you got a lot done today. Mm-hmm. And there was something about it. It really helped change my view. And I was like, you're right. I did get a lot done today. Wouldn't have happened by myself.
Yeah.
By myself, I would have said, I failed. I blew it today. And I think that's the danger of the lone wolf. We can be the harshest critics of ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or we can ignore our problems and think it's not that big a deal.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
And I think both extremes happen when you're a lone wolf. Yeah. You either justify your actions or you beat yourself up too much. And that's why we need people.
Yeah, you're totally right. A funny example of that. This happened like 2 days ago. We got back from church and got some various things done. I think I did a bunch of dishes. And after that, I was like, dang, I'm like almost out of socks. I got to go wash them. Mm-hmm. And I go and I walk into the laundry room and Emily's like, you're not going to do laundry, are you? I was like, yeah. She's like, no, it's too late. I was like, but I'm almost out of. She's like, no, it's 9 whatever. It's like 9:30.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so like sometimes you need somebody else to tell you like, all right, it's important, but not right now.
Yeah.
It's good to have a friend to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
Because in my brain, I was like, sometimes you just got to do it if it's got to get done.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And it's like, well, guess what? Stop.
Yeah.
And we all need that in some way, shape, or form. I think it also, a big benefit of having people in our corner, it helps us not fall into the victim mentality. It's so easy when you're by yourself to be like, life's against me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you said a couple weeks ago, I'm the only one who has this problem.
yeah,
And that's just not true. Having other people in your corner can help you not fall into that. Because being a victim mentality makes you powerless. Being in a victim mentality is giving the power that God's given you to make a choice
yeah.
and giving it to someone else.
Yeah, and it's also, it gives you an easy out to not take responsibility. Well, this was what was done to me. People did this to me. It's not my fault. It's not my problem. You know, I was talking with someone the other day who they had a lot of things happen in their life, and they went through all this stuff, is what they've told me, and it was like, man, that's horrible. But then I started seeing how they live, what they do, and part of me is starting to wonder, were all those things really done to them? Or is that just in their mind? And it's their excuse because they're kind of jerks. And I'm wondering if they were being a jerk more than they realize, but it was always someone else's fault.
That's a good point. That's a blind spot.
Yeah, and I think as men, we can do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, it's not my problem. It's my boss. My boss just doesn't understand me. I never communicate with him, but he doesn't understand me. He's supposed to read my mind. Well, he can't read your mind. But when we're by ourselves, we don't see those things.
Yeah.
And we don't have those other people to kind of, hey, have you thought of this or thought of that? And that's the dangerous place to be.
No, you're right. And the truth is nobody can actually do life alone. That's what's funny. Like even the idea that you can do life alone is a joke.
Yeah.
Because here's the truth. You drive a car someone else made. A whole team of people made.
Yep.
You put oil in it that people worked their butts off to get to a gas station that you could get to. You go to a grocery store with food that somebody else grew, somebody else delivered, somebody else placed, somebody else did the work to make that happen. You watch shows, hundreds of people work together to create. You use internet that's based off of systems that thousands of people work together to keep and maintain.
Yeah.
You can do it on your own. That's funny because just the basic necessities of life, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're depending on thousands, if not millions of people just to sustain a normal day.
Yeah.
And if that happens just to get food on the table, if that happens just to have electricity in your home, how much more the deeper issues, the deeper things, the things that you can't see, but that make up what a real life is.
Yeah.
Yes, we need people. And that's not a weakness. I think that's an issue a lot of us struggle with.
Yeah.
We think it's weak to need others.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it is strong. Real strength is required to admit, hey, let's work on this together. Hey, this is an area I need help with.
Or even to tell someone, hey, you're better at this than I am.
Yeah,
Teach
that's
me,
true.
show me. And that's the thing. If you want to overcome that lone wolf mentality, you've got to see those things. I think having a sense of gratefulness is huge.
Yeah.
To be grateful to others for the little things, for the small things they did that make your life great. I saw a thing a while back. It was Keanu Reeves on the set of, I think, John Wick 4, where he was moving lighting equipment with the team because he was like, well, it needed to be done. And you hear stories about that all the time. And everybody thinks, man, Keanu Reeves is such a great guy. Why? Because he notices stuff and he's grateful for people and what they do. And I think for you as a lone wolf person, you want to make sure, hey, I didn't get here by myself. You know, even Batman was trained, you said. Liam Neeson was trained by someone else. He didn't get there by himself. And I think for us, it's having that sense of gratefulness, but then also doing something with your life that you don't get the benefit of. It's for others. When we serve someone else, and that's the thing about all these lone wolf movies, the thing that makes them great is what they do for others.
You're so right. That's a good point.
You know, Liam Neeson was going after his daughter. He was doing something for someone else. I think we can learn a lesson in that. Batman became Batman in service to others.
The diehard guy was saving a bunch of hostages.
He was. And I think for us, we have to look at, well, maybe there's something in that I could apply to my life. Your greatness as a man is found in what you do for others.
Yeah.
It's not found in what you do for yourself. You can make $1 million, but if you're alone, you're still alone.
Yeah.
You have $1 million, but you're by yourself.
Yeah.
But you do stuff for other people. Even if you make $1 million, you'll have people around you. You'll have units of friendship and love that just make life worth living more than money does.
No, I think you're absolutely right. So you have this element like when you get out of the loner life, because the truth is the lone wolf life reduces you. Mm-hmm. Your sun rises and sets with how you feel. And that's it. That's a small world. Mm-hmm. But when you expand and invite others into the story, not only can you expand your own capacity, but you begin to contribute to something that's far bigger than you. Yeah. So those tough times that hit don't wreck you as much because your life's not just about how you feel.
Yeah.
And those good times that come, you get to share with others. Mm-hmm. It both makes the good better and it makes the bad less difficult. That's part of why getting other people into the picture is so important. So how do we get there? Mm-hmm. How can we begin to overcome that mentality, that all by myself, lone wolf, one-man army kind of mentality?
Well, I think one of the most important things you can do, besides what we talked about, sense of gratefulness, serving others, is you've got to look at the reality of, do I really have friends? Do I have people in my life, a team of people where we're helping each other? It's not that your team is there for you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's where you're both there for each other. Mm-hmm. People who just like you. You're not paying them. They're not financially invested in you. They're just your friends. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing.
That is.
I remember reading stories of, I think it was Eddie Murphy back in the day when he got so huge that, everybody's after him for this, that, and the other, that a lot of his old friends from the neighborhood are who he hung out with. Guys he knew before he became Eddie Murphy. And I don't know if that was real or what, but it's kind of a lesson we can learn. Find people who you can just be friends with.
Yeah.
Where you don't owe them something, they don't owe you something. It's not networking, it's genuine friendships. Because when you find that, it's something that helps you avoid that lone wolf mentality because it gets you to care for someone else.
Yeah.
And there's someone who cares for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that has to be intentional. It doesn't happen by itself today.
No. I think that's why a lot of churches have small groups. Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason, whatever they call them. There's like 7,000 names for small groups. There's community groups,
there is.
Connect groups, life groups. There's probably others, There's a group called B groups,
Really?
B groups.
I didn't know that.
Circle groups, that's another one.
Really?
There's so many names.
Oh, wow, there is. There's a million.
But the purpose is the same. Our society does not naturally foster good quality friendships. Mm-hmm. For most of history, if you did not have a tribe that you got along with, you died.
Yeah.
If you couldn't sell your goods to anybody, you're done. Sorry about that. There was a dependency on one another. But now we've talked about it many times. You could easily stay by yourself.
Yeah, you can.
And so we as guys have to be intentional to move beyond that. And it can be something as simple as having a cookout in the neighborhood, inviting some dudes to barbecue or something. Or if you're into a sport, going and watching a game together or something. Like, it can start very simply, but it can make all the difference because you're expanding your world beyond yourself.
Yeah.
You need a team to get together with, and you need a purpose beyond yourself. That's what God invites us into, to love him with all our heart, which what's bigger than God?
Yeah.
And then love others as ourselves. That is really the core of what a good life is. And neither of those happen when you're stuck in a lone wolf mentality.
Yeah, and that would be our challenge to you today is quit buying into the lone wolf lie. Learn lessons from them. You can learn good and bad things from them. But you don't have to be a lone wolf. It doesn't make you a better man. It's not going to fix things in your life.
Yeah.
You need people. You should want people. You need to go after those friendships. You
Absolutely.
say, well, no one's coming after me for a friendship. Well, you go after people. Mm-hmm. You learn to be a friend. You learn to serve others, do things for others, and you'll start finding those real friendships. And that's the thing that helps you overcome that lone wolf mentality, because it's a lie.
It is. That's the only time that it's good to be a lone wolf is when you're stepping out first and getting a group together and there's nobody else in the corner with you. You get to have a little lone wolf phase where you're the one-man army getting together an army. But after that, dude, with people, it's better. 100% every time, all the time. So that's how we want you to live. That's how we want everybody to live. That's why we made our beta group, our community group. We're trying to work on building an environment that's like that. We'll roll out more details about that. But between now and then, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.